Why do some people spend money even when they know they shouldn't? Why does a tiny impulse, a small discount, a moment of boredom turn into another purchase, another package at the door, another day wondering, why did I do that again? Most people think overspending is about lack of discipline. It's not. Overspending is emotional psychology, not math. Because people who spend money too easily aren't irresponsible. They're trying to feel something. Let's break down the first layer of the psychology. 1. Spending becomes an emotional escape. For many overspenders, buying something isn't about the object. It's about the moment, the temporary emotional shift. They're not buying shoes, gadgets, subscriptions, or accessories. They're buying relief, distraction, comfort, reassurance, a sense of control. Even a small purchase gives a quick dopamine hit, a feeling of everything is okay for a moment, and the brain remembers that feeling. 2. Purchases fill emotional gaps. Overspending is often linked to silent internal struggles, loneliness, boredom, anxiety, low self-worth, stress, lack of emotional support, feeling behind in life. Buying becomes a way to fill what psychology calls an emotional vacuum. When life feels empty, the quickest way to feel full again is to acquire something. It doesn't fix the problem, but it numbs it. 3. I deserve this becomes a trap. This is one of the most powerful mental loops. When someone is tired, overworked, ignored, stressed, or emotionally drained, their brain whispers, "You've been through so much, you deserve a reward." And they believe it, because for a moment, spending feels like self-care. But here's the twist. That reward creates guilt, and guilt creates emotional pain, and emotional pain leads to more spending. A cycle begins. 4. Their self-worth is tied to what they own. People who easily overspend often struggle with internal identity. They don't feel enough, so they try to look enough. New clothes, new phone, new accessories, new everything. They're not chasing stature, they're chasing a version of themselves they wish they could be. Purchases become a costume to hide an insecure identity. They're using money to regulate feelings that they never learned to process. Overspending isn't a financial problem. It's an emotional one. Let me know when you're ready. I'll build Section 2 in the same powerful viral style. If Section 1 explained why the emotions start, Section 2 explains why they can't stop. Because overspending isn't random. It follows predictable psychological loops that most people never notice. Let's break them down. 1. They mistake impulse for intuition. Overspenders often feel a sudden pull. That looks good. I should get it. This might help. I'll feel better if I buy it. They confuse that instant emotional spark with something meaningful. But impulse is not intuition. Impulse is the brain saying, "Please distract me from what I don't want to feel right now." And the moment they listen to that spark, the loop begins. 2. They crave control in a life that feels uncontrollable. Here's something people rarely admit. Many overspenders feel powerless in other parts of their life. They can't control people, relationships, outcomes, the future, emotions, their own thoughts. But they can control buying something. It's fast. It's simple. It's predictable. It gives an immediate reaction. Purchasing becomes the one place or they don't feel helpless.
3. Their brain is trained to chase the dopamine drug. Each purchase triggers dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. And dopamine has a rule. What feels good once, the brain wants again. So the mind starts scanning for shopping triggers. Ads, discounts, notifications.
Moods, boredom, stress, comparison, loneliness. Even the idea of buying something creates the dopamine rise, sometimes stronger than the item itself. This is why many overspenders buy things they don't even use.
The brain never wanted the item. It wanted the feeling. 4. They fear missing out, even on imaginary loss. Overspenders struggle with a psychological bias called FOMO regret duality. They fear missing a discount, missing a trend, missing a moment, losing an opportunity, not having something just in case. But here's the twist.
Most of the things they fear missing were never needs to begin with. The brain invents imaginary loss so that spending feels justified. 5. They use spending to avoid uncomfortable emotions. This is the deepest pattern. When negative emotions appear, anxiety, sadness, emptiness, stress, many people process them. Overspenders escape them. Buying becomes emotional anesthesia, a quick way to avoid sitting with discomfort. This is why overspenders often collapse financially during emotional stress, not during normal days. They're not running from money problems. They're running from themselves.
Section 2. Summary. Overspending isn't about money. It's about mental loops that rewrite how the brain reacts to discomfort, control, fear, and reward. They don't buy because they want things. They buy because they want relief. If Section 2 explained the patterns, Section 3 explains the triggers, the moments when everything collapses and they start spending without thinking. These triggers are so subtle that even intelligent, self-aware people miss them. Let's break down the ones psychology says are the most dangerous. They spend when they feel unseen or unappreciated. Overspenders often carry silent emotional hunger. When they feel ignored, undervalued, overlooked, or unimportant, their mind reaches for the fastest way to feel significant again. Buying becomes a substitute for validation. Something like, if nobody sees me, at least this new thing will make me feel different. But the feeling fades, and the cycle starts again. 2. They spend when they feel out of identity. Psychology shows that people don't buy products, they buy versions of themselves. Overspenders struggle with identity gaps. Who am I? Am I falling behind? Am I good enough? And so they buy things that make them feel like the version of themselves they want to be. More successful, more attractive, more organized, more confident. Every purchase is an attempt to repair the identity they're afraid isn't strong enough. 3. They spend when comparison hits. Overspending spikes when people compare themselves to friends, influencers, coworkers, strangers online. Comparison creates emotional pressure, a silent feeling of, I need to catch up. And spending becomes the shortcut to keeping up with expectations that were never real in the first place. Comparison creates insecurity. Insecurity creates desire. Desire creates spending. 4. They spend when life feels stagnant. One of the biggest hidden triggers? Boredom. But not the light kind, the existential kind. The feeling of being stuck, not progressing, not growing, not changing. Overspenders crave stimulation because their inner world feels paused. So buying becomes a way to feel movement, a small rush of something is happening. It's not excitement, It's escape from the feeling of being emotionally stuck. 5. They spend when they're trying to impress people who don't actually matter. This one is painful. Overspenders often stretch themselves financially to impress people who aren't thinking about them, don't care.
Won't remember, will never return the effort they spend to gain approval, acceptance, or admiration from people who aren't part of their real life. Overspending becomes a performance, and the audience doesn't even know there's a show.
Section 3. Summary. Overspending isn't triggered by objects. It's triggered by emotions. The exact moments when the mind feels insecure, unseen, stuck, or not enough. When emotions rise, logic disappears, and buying becomes a bandage for wounds that money can't fix.
People think overspending only drains money, but psychology says it drains something much more valuable: your stability, your confidence, and your sense of control. Overspenders don't realize this until the damage is already done.
Let's break down the quiet consequences that hit the hardest. 1. Their future becomes smaller without them noticing. Every impulsive purchase steals from the life they could have lived: savings, opportunities, and freedom.
Choices. Overspending keeps them stuck in the present, never able to build a better future. And the saddest part, they don't feel the loss immediately. They feel it years later. 2. Their self-worth collapses little by little. After the dopamine fades, reality hits. Why did I do that again? Why can't I stop? What's wrong with me?
Every purchase they regret becomes another crack in their confidence, not because of the money, but because they feel out of control in their own life. 3. They drown in guilt they never talk about. Overspenders smile in public and panic in private. They pretend everything is fine, but inside there's noise of regret, shame, fear, anxiety. Overspending isn't fun anymore. It's emotional self-escape. 4. They lose trust in their own decisions. When someone can't control their spending, they start doubting themselves and everything else. Can I handle responsibilities? Can I manage my future? Can I trust myself at all? The financial loss hurts, but the loss of self-trust is what breaks them.
Section 4. Short summary. Overspending doesn't just empty wallets. It empties confidence, clarity, peace, long-term hope. It turns a person into someone who fears their own impulses and feels trapped in a life they never meant to create. And this sets up the final section: the transformation, the shift, the turning point.
In the end, people who spend money too easily aren't careless. They're hurting. Overspending is rarely about luxury. It's about escape. Escape from stress. Escape from emptiness. Escape from the thoughts they don't want to face. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Buying feels good because for a moment, it fills what life didn't.
Spend so much. The real question is, what pain are they trying to silence? Now, tell me in the comments, when you look at your own spending, do you buy because you want it or because you want to feel something?